Today I'm going to talk to you about why it's important to winterize the backflow device on your sprinkler system. When it starts getting cold outside, one of the things you want to make sure you think about is winterizing the backflow device on your sprinkler system. Now, two of the most common backflow devices that are installed above grade are what's called a PVB, or pressure vacuum breaker, or an RPZ, a reduced pressure zone backflow device. These two types of backflow devices are to be installed above grade. And because they're installed above grade, that exposes them to all of the elements. And when we're talking about winterizing, they're exposed to the cold and the winter weather. That's why you need to make sure you do something to winterize these backflow devices. That way they don't freeze and break and crack, which is going to cost you a lot of money to replace. And you're not having something leak, running water everywhere. I'm going to show you on this RPZ and use it as an example of what happens to a backflow device when it is not winterized. We had this 2-inch RPZ installed on a project, and it was not covered up with anything. It just came up out of the ground and was fully exposed to all the elements. I had it in mind to go out there and cover this thing up with something and didn't get to it in time before we had a bad cold front come through and freeze and break this backflow device. So let me show you what happens to a backflow device when it is not winterized. You can see first right here, just regular PVC. This cracked and broke. Let me show you what else cracked. Both of the ball valves and shutoff valves of this RPZ froze and cracked. What happens is when water is full in a pipe or backflow device like this, when it freezes, it'll actually expand. And that's what causes this to actually blow out and crack like that. Now this is pretty tough stuff. And for water to freeze and be able to break, this metal bronze material lets you know the force behind that water freezing and expanding. You may expect it to do on a plastic PVC, but it will actually do it on this metal part too. So this is a good example of what happens to a backflow device that's installed above grade, and when it's not winterized at all and you've got a lot of freezing weather, it's going to crack and break it. These things are getting more and more expensive just to buy this unit itself, but it's also becoming more expensive to have them fixed and replaced. And so taking the precautions and doing something to winterize this is going to save you a lot of hassle and a lot of money in the long run. So let's talk about several things you can do to winterize your backflow device. If you're going to turn your sprinkler system off for the winter, one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to want to drain the water out of your backflow, and you can actually drain it out of the entire system. If you want all the water out, you can call a guy that has a big air compressor, and he'll come out and he'll tie on to where the backflow device is, and he'll blow out all of the water out of your sprinkler system. That way, when it gets down to those really cold freezing temperatures, that water's not going to freeze, and it's not going to freeze your backflow device or the piping of your sprinkler system. Even if you're not going to blow out all the water of your sprinkler system, it's good to drain the water out of where these are tied onto. Sometimes you can have a drain on the bottom you can open up and drain the water. Like if you've got a PVB like this, you want all the water, a valve down here to drain all the water out of this unit. That'll keep it from breaking like this one. There are some of these units that are installed in a way that you can just take the backflow device completely out. If these are installed with unions, sometimes you'll shut the water off and you'll take this backflow device completely out, put a cap back on or something like that so it's not leaking, and then you won't have to worry about your backflow device at least freezing and breaking. Now, in a lot of areas, you're going to leave your system on during the winter and still water on your warm days. If you're in the south somewhere and it stays above freezing most of the time and you're not really getting a lot of rain, you're still going to want to run your sprinkler system. And so in that case, you're going to want to cover these things up and insulate them in some kind of way. That way, when a cold front comes down and comes in, these are still protected and are not going to freeze. So some materials you can use just a wrap that's like an insulated wrap. You can wrap all the way around this stuff, or you can buy some regular insulation like you'd see in a wall and wrap that up and tape it up and give it some sort of cover and some sort of insulation. Now, one of the things I would recommend, even if you are going to wrap it, still put some sort of insulated cover over the backflow device. Having it wrapped and having it covered with an insulated cover is really one of the best ways to winterize your backflow device if you're leaving it on and still wanting to water throughout the winter. Now you can pick up some regular old insulation, an insulated wrap, or even an insulated cover for pretty cheap, for a lot of times less than $100. And that is very inexpensive compared to replacing one of these backflow devices. This 1-inch PVB, it costs about anywhere from $100 to $200, just the unit itself. And to have somebody to come out and replace it, well, it could range anywhere from $500 to even $1,000. Now when you go into the bigger sizes, well obviously you're going to figure it out, the price goes up. So spending $100 or even a couple $100 on covering these backflow devices up and insulating them is really the way you want to go versus replacing it like we had to do on this one. So before the next cold front comes in or it starts getting really cold in your area, start thinking about what you're going to do and how you're going to winterize your sprinkler system, especially your backflow devices.